So one of my students just set himself up with a full ride scholarship worth $99,344 because he figured out how to finish the ACT on time. Now, if you're interested in earning $100,000 worth of scholarships as well, then stick around to find out exactly how we can do that. The first time he took the test, he didn't even have time to bubble in the answers to all the questions that he didn't even get to. So you ended up having to leave some questions blank, which is the absolute worst thing you can do on the ACT. When there's no penalty for guessing, you want to at least bubble in all of the questions. But he didn't even have enough time to do that. He ended up with a 20 from that test. And later on, he actually got it up to a 23 by at least guessing on all the questions, but he was still guessing on the last 5 to 10 questions on each section of the test, and he was just leaving so many points on the table because of it. So let's break this down section by section, and I'll show you exactly how we got Andrew to finish every single question on the ACT, increase his score up to a 29, and earn him a full ride scholarship worth $100,000 because of it. So starting with the English section, you've got 45 minutes to tackle 75 questions. And now that might sound overwhelming, but the questions on this section are actually the simplest out of all 4 sections. So this section is actually the least time sensitive compared to all the other ones. And here's exactly what we need to do to save time on the English section. And first up, we always need to read the full sentence before we jump to a conclusion about our answer choice. On the English section, context is absolutely king. You might be tempted to just skip around and only read the underlined parts of the passage, but if you do that, you're missing out on important information that actually helps you understand each question and gets you to actually answer the questions quicker. So it might seem counterintuitive to read more than what seems like necessary, but if it helps you answer the questions quicker and gets rid of some of that deliberation time, this can actually be something that cuts down the amount of time that you spend per question. And that's not even mentioning the fact that it makes you more accurate at picking the answers as well. And now once you've picked an answer, you want to reread that sentence from start to finish, all the way from the capital letter at the beginning of the sentence to the period at the end of the sentence with your answer choice plugged in there. And you want to figure out, is it a complete sentence? Is it a run-on sentence? Again, this can seem like it's just a waste of time, but this step is actually crucial because it saves you from flipping back and forth between answer choices, which can be a major time drain. And again, it also helps you get the answer choice correct more often than not. And so just changing that approach to the English section can cut down on a few minutes of time by itself. But I always say that there's 2 things with the ACT. On the one hand, there's your strategy and your approach, and then on the other hand, there's the content knowledge. And we need both of these together in order to do well in the ACT. Everyone wants the little tricks and hacks to just shortcut their way to a perfect score, and the strategy can give you some quick fixes, but it won't get you all the way there. We also have to have our content knowledge down. And the content on the English section is the grammar rules. You have to know them. You have to know when to use a colon, when to use a semicolon, period, comma, what makes a run-on sentence. You have to know all of this stuff. If you don't, you're just going to be second guessing your answer choices and wasting precious time along the way. Now, the best way to get this down is by practicing with as many realistic practice questions as you possibly can. And after each practice session, you want to review every single incorrect answer or question that you guessed on. If you have a problem with commas or semicolons, hit those topics as hard as you can in your study time until you know exactly when and where to use them. So if you combine these 2 things together into one, you'll not only have a good approach to the section, but you'll also have the good, solid understanding of content knowledge, which will help you cross off answers a lot quicker and it'll help you move very smoothly through this English test. And so now onto the math section. Now in this section, you have 60 questions and you have 60 minutes. So seems pretty straightforward, right? 1 minute per question. Well, that amount of time is not correct for the entire section. And that's where Andrew was going wrong. You simply can't spend 1 minute on every question because the early questions are very, very easy compared to the later on questions. So if we want to be able to answer all the questions on the test, we need to be through the first 30 questions, that first half of the test, in about 20 or 22 minutes. And that will leave us about 40 minutes to answer the back half, the last 30 questions on the test. This is going to give us the time that we need in order to think through those tougher questions at the end of the test compared to the easier questions at the beginning of the test. And quick side note here, if we're only shooting for mid-20s, we can really focus on just those first 30 questions, make sure that we get as many of those questions correct as possible, and then just take our best guess on any questions that we don't get to on the end of the test. But that's not what this specific video is about, so we won't get too in-depth on that strategy here. Since Andrew was shooting for a score in the upper 20s or low 30s, we worked on getting the first half of the test done in that 20 minutes. But obviously, just telling him to get the first half of the test done faster isn't enough. So let's dig into exactly what we did in order to get him to finish all the questions in time. And importantly here, when we looked at Andrew's results, he was pretty good at the questions early on, so he had not been practicing them. But that's another common mistake. Just because he was getting the easy ones correct doesn't mean that he was doing these questions as efficiently and as effectively as he possibly could have been. After seeing that he was taking simple algebra questions and trying to plug in each answer choice one at a time, I realized that he was wasting a ton of time on very simple questions. So what we did is we had to relearn some of the algebra fundamentals, and we changed his approach to all of these algebra questions. This allowed him to go from spending about a minute per question on these basic algebra questions to spending just 15 seconds per question on average. That 45 seconds of time saving on every single one of these questions is absolutely massive, especially when there are 3 or 4 of these on the first half of every test. That adds up to about 3 minutes of total time saved just on the first half of the test, and just from this one change that we made. Again, this is a perfect example of why we really need to maximize both the strategy and the content in order to maximize our score and really make sure that we're finishing the questions on time. So first things first, you need to determine what score you're shooting for on the math section, and then pick a strategy based off of your target score. And then what you want to do is just practice this strategy over and over again until it becomes second nature for you to solve all the questions that you need to on the math section. And next up here is the reading section. This section is one that students are pretty much split on. Some students find absolutely no trouble finishing the questions on time and even have some time left over to check their answers at the end. And then some students find that this section is just impossible to finish on time. No matter what they do, they just cannot finish all 40 questions in the 35 minutes that they're given. And now Andrew fell into this first category. He had a lot of trouble finishing everything on all 4 sections of the test, and the reading section was no different. He had to guess on a number of questions at the end of the test, and we had to really go back to the drawing board with his approach to this section. And Andrew wasn't too confident in making any progress on this section. He thought that just because he wasn't a fast reader, he just wasn't going to be able to improve on this section. But what we did is we introduced a brand new strategy for him. Rather than reading the passage in depth every single time and then answering the questions, I just had him skim the passage. I told him to spend no more than 90 or maybe 120 seconds on this initial skim and to not worry too much about all the details, but really just try and get a general picture of what the passage is talking about at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end. We don't need every single detail because we're going to go back and refer back to the passage as we answer the questions anyways. So for most students, reading in depth the first time through is just a complete waste of time. Then we can save even more time by the order that we answer the questions in. We start off at first by answering any question that asks about a specific line number. This makes it really easy for us to just go right to the part of the passage that we need to reread. We then find the right detail and we just answer the question. And as we do this, we're getting more and more information about what the passage is actually talking about because we're rereading it. And so once we finish all of these types of questions, we can then answer any question except for what I call the big picture questions. These big picture questions will be questions that ask about the entire passage as a whole, such as what did the author intend when he was writing this passage? Or what was the main idea of the passage as a whole? Or from what perspective was the narrator narrating this passage from? Typically, these will be the very first question that's asked in each question group, so we normally want to skip these and save these for the dead last question that we answer. So instead, once we finish all the line number questions, we want to go to all of the other non-big picture questions. Pretty much the rest of these questions will be what's called small detail questions, where they're just really wanting us to go back to the passage, find one little small detail, and then answer the question about that small little detail. And because we've already reread a decent bit of the passage from those line number questions, we should have a little bit of an easier time going back and finding the exact place where the textual evidence is for these little detail types of questions. And then finally, once we answer all of these little detail questions, we can then go back to that first question at the beginning that was asking about the big picture as a whole. At this point, we've reread a bunch of different parts of the passage, enough to have a good idea of everything that happened. So these questions will be much simpler to answer. For example, if we look at these questions right here, I would personally start off by answering numbers 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9 because they all mention a specific line number. Then, once we finish those, I would go and do numbers 3, 6, and 10. And then finally, since number 1 was asking about the point of view that the passage as a whole was narrated from, I would finish off by answering that question last. Now, of course, this strategy can be a bit of an adjustment and it can take some time to get comfortable with this. And that's exactly what happened with Andrew. It took him some time and some practice in order to get comfortable skimming the passage and really going into the questions without having a ton of knowledge about the passage. But after continually practicing this approach, he got more and more comfortable with it, and he began finishing the reading section with extra time left over. So if you find yourself running out of time on the reading section, then this would be a really good strategy to try out on a couple different practice tests and see if you can get comfortable with it and if it works well for you. And now last up here, we finally have the science section. This is the section that is universally the time crunch that everybody hates. Everybody, when they look at the ACT science section, says there's absolutely no way that I can finish this section on time, at least the first time that they take this test. And Andrew, of course, was making a mistake that I see all the time with students on the science section. He was spending his time reading the passage, reading each study, before he actually went through and answered the questions. And we simply don't have time to do that on the science test. The trick to the science section is that we don't really have to know what's going on in the passage or what's going on in the studies in order to answer the questions that they're asking. Most questions will only ask about one specific graph or data table, or maybe even two specific graphs or data tables, without really referencing the study or the passage itself. And of course, just like the reading section, we're gonna have to go back and find the right information on every question anyways, so there's really no need to look at the study before you look at the questions. So I personally recommend on the science section, we just ignore the study, we ignore the passage at first, and we just go straight to the first question, paying specific attention to what specific graph, what figure or what data table it references in the question. And then we can simply hone in on the one detail that we need to find in that figure or in that data table. This one strategy was a huge time saver for Andrew, and once he got comfortable with it, he found that he was finishing these science tests right on time. But there's also one more trick that students can use to save time on this science section, and it really kind of seems counterintuitive at first. On the longer, more complex questions that mention a bunch of different details, what we can do is actually write out very quick notes about what we need to be looking for in the figures. Most students will spend a bunch of time on these questions, going back and forth between the questions and the figures, and then the questions and the figures and the data tables, trying to figure out exactly what detail they need to find, and they end up getting lost in all the nuance. So what we can do is just jot down a couple of notes about the key details that the question's asking for, so we don't have to go back and dig through the question when we get to the next detail that we're looking for. And this can save us a ton of time from going back and forth between different pages of the test and just looking at our notes instead. So the next time that you're practicing for the ACT science section, try these two things. Try skipping the passage entirely, and also try out the strategy of jotting down a couple of quick notes and some shorthand that you recognize. Those are the two things that took Andrew from panicked about running out of time on the science section to all of a sudden being able to answer all 40 questions in the 35 minutes that we have. So after Andrew practiced and really locked down these strategies, he took his score from a 23 all the way up to a 29. And because of this, Andrew was able to get a full ride at the University of Central Florida, where he ended up going. Otherwise, he would have had to pay $24,836 per year to go there. That's $99,344 over the course of 4 years, all because he was able to figure out how to save time on each section of the ACT. Now, if you're interested in making a significant score improvement on the ACT, just like Andrew was, I've laid out the exact roadmap that you can follow in order to max out your score. Check it out for free by clicking the link in the description below. And if you're interested in working with me personally, you can apply from that page as well. Otherwise, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow along for more tips on how to master the ACT, earn the most scholarship money possible, and also get into the best colleges. I'll see you in the next one.